Alright, my name is Will Lehman, and I'll be presenting my story called Drumline Chops. Now, every week, it was freshman year, and I was taking drum lessons, spending another $25 every week, and I'd be practicing with Mr. K. We worked through the same boring exercise. And I was getting really bored with it. I wanted to play something hard. I wanted to make the snare line my freshman year, and that was my goal. Nothing was going to stop me from it. So the next week, we keep improving, and tempo would get a little bit faster. And I was like, all right, I'm starting to get somewhere. I'm starting to get better. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's awesome, man. So I was preparing all for auditions, right? So auditions were approaching, and I walked into the audition room. It's a pretty big room and everything. There's like a bunch of people competing for the spot in the snare line. I go in there, I audition, and I didn't even learn the packet, but I thought, I have a good chance. Mr. K's, watching me audition. He's been practicing. He knows what I'm doing. I go in there, audition. I get cut like that. Like, I'm like one of the first cuts. It's like, oh, dang. So I go home that night. I'm like, oh, hey, Mom, auditions are pretty cool, Yeah, all that money you've been spending every week? Yeah, it doesn't matter now. I got cut. So she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I got cut from the snare line, She's like, all right, we're going to go down there. We're going to go talk about this. So we go down there, and we go into the room, and we meet with Mr. K, and we go into the small office space. And just imagine Mr. K, this very big, tall dude. He's like over 6 foot. He's very heavy set. His voice commands your attention when he speaks to you in the room, especially this office space. So we go in there, and we're just like, okay, so what can I do to improve? Why did I get cut? And bottom line, after a 10-minute conversation, Mr. K is like, we all knew that was never going to happen. It's like, oh, I'm like, what? And I look at my mom, I'm like, what? I'm like, okay, I was taking this in. So I leave that room that day, and I go home. I'm like, all right, Mom, so nothing's going to happen at this school, so I want to march next season. So I want to transfer high school. She's like, all right. So next year comes up, and I transfer, and I meet the new director over there. I'm like, yeah, I just want to audition for the snare line. He's like, all right, cool, yeah, here's the packet, come learn it. And I learn the packet and everything. I go in there, I audition, play whatever, and then he's just like, all right, man, you're really close, but we can't offer you a spot on the snare line. I'm like, got cut again, man. But he's like, but I'll give you a spot on bass drum, and then you gain some marching experience, so you'll be ready for snare like the next year. I'm like, all right. So I marched the season on bass. This whole time, I still have the goal of snare at the forefront of my mind. I'm going to make this drum. So I marched the season, and now going into my junior year. Now, mind you, at the new school, I'm also in the jazz band, and I'm playing drum set, right? And he's like, oh yeah, guess who our drum set instructor is? I don't know if you know him, but Mr. K. I'm like, what? I'm like, oh, no, oh yeah, really? I'm like, okay. So I'm at the new high school, and Mr. K walks in, and we both have like that awkward stare for like, a little bit. I'm like, oh yeah, I just left your high school and everything. Yeah, good to see you again. But as the days went by, he started to see me improve on drum set, at least for jazz and everything. I'm like, all right, maybe his perception is starting to change. Maybe he's seen me improve. I don't know. So that same year, junior year, I auditioned, and I finally make the snare line because I was like, I'll be damned if I get cut again for this drum. So I made the snare line. My technique's starting to, really improve. So I'm getting better. And then senior year comes up, and I marched some good seasons, 2 seasons here, 2 seasons there. Senior year comes up, and my band director's like, all right, I want you to be the drumline captain. I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm like running the drumline now, like with other people participating, and I'm going to help them, improve their technique and everything. And teaching them helps me get better too with my technique and everything. And then, I marched another 2 seasons, like, oh yeah, this is cool and everything. And then I graduate. I'm like, oh dang, now nowhere to march anymore, man. Like, all right, so can't march with any high school groups. So I got audition for independent groups, because those are the groups that, you can have college level people go and play for. I'm like, all right. So I audition for a college level group, and I only pick one. I'm like, I don't have time to audition for like 3 groups. Go to one. I audition, I go in there, I learn the packet and everything, I play well. They're like, all right, yeah, we're gonna offer you a spot on the snare line. I'm like, cool, now I'm playing in some college level groups, all right. And little did I know, but here's the thing. Guess who was running the college level group? Mr. K. He finally gave me a spot on that line. And at the end of the audition process, I'm like, oh yeah, thanks for giving me a spot and everything. He's like, yeah, your hands look good. Well, I'm like, yeah, thanks, man. So this is where all my progress has gotten me today.